Reading this morning is from the Gospel of Mark. We're starting on chapter 11 with verse 1, and I'll be reading through verse 11. If you'd like to follow along, you can look in your Pew Bible, the New Testament, on page 47. When they were approaching Jerusalem at Bethphage and Bethany, near the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the village ahead of you. And immediately as you enter it, you will find tied there, colt, that has never been ridden. Untie it and bring it. If anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing this?' just say this: 'The Lord needs it.' We'll send it back here immediately." They went away and found a colt tied near a door outside in the street. They were untying it. Some of the bystanders said to them, "What are you doing, tying the colt?" They told them what Jesus had said, and they allowed them to take it. And they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks on it. He sat on him. Many people spread their cloaks on the road. Others spread leafy branches that they had cut in the field. Then those who went ahead of them and those who followed were shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our ancestor David. Hosanna in the highest heaven." Then he entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. And when he had looked around at everything, it was already late. He went out to Bethany 12. Hearing these words, God and Lord.
Well, you're in for a treat today. My sermon's only 2 pages long. I put it all on the lectern here without having to shuffle pages through. But we'll make up for it in the cantata, so we're going to live in get out of here in these sermons. But my sermon is titled Hosanna. So what do we mean when we shout Hosanna? It means blessed is the name of the Lord. It is an acknowledgement of Jesus, at least in this particular incident, as a Messiah and King, based on passages in the prophecy of the Old Testament and the book of Zechariah and other places. The people who placed their cloaks and branches on the ground before Jesus were recognizing him as Messiah. Prophecy. It was Jesus, in their minds at least, who would conquer all the enemies of Israel and lead them into freedom from oppression. It was a very public endorsement of his position as the conqueror, the one who used to come and did indeed come to throw these hated Romans from their place of oppressive control over Israel. Now, these people of Israel were the people who had been free in the past, who had been enslaved in Egypt and delivered from that yoke by God himself. And they trekked through the desert until they finally came to this place where Reuben was shot at them. But they had a God who was with them, and now seems to have returned to them to throw off another yoke. These people had seen Jesus do many powerful things that could only be attributed to God. No human could possibly heal cripples who had endured that state for so long, or toss demons out of people. Demons which no man could touch, only Jesus. Jesus enjoyed a following of people who were drawn to his miraculous demonstrations of power over forces only God could control. Large crowds gathered around Jesus and were even fed by his blessing of bread and fish, though a small quantity that satisfied 5,000 or more people in a crowd to fullness, with bread and fish left over to feed more later. Surely this man would be the one to conquer the conquerors and free the faithful to once again practice their faith in freedom. But this crowd, which urged Jesus on his trip to Jerusalem, asked him, who was riding on a donkey, was a bit premature in their assessment of his loyalty. They quite read the fine print in those prophecies of the Messiah. You know, the parts that said he must suffer and he must die before he could be raised to the pinnacle of his power through resurrection. The crowd here saw the power of God which lived in the donkey, but did not see the power of resurrection that must take place before he could manifest that power in its ultimate glory. We celebrate with the crowd on the road to Jerusalem today, but we see it from a different perspective, from the knowledge of his death and resurrection. And that means that we have some knowledge of what is coming up in the suffering and the abandonment by his disciples and his hanging on a cross that he bore on his own to the place of his crucifixion and his death. And some of us will have a chance to experience that this coming week. Oh, some will be busy with other tasks and matters and will not be back until Sunday. So we will get to experience some of that in the musical presentation of the beginning portions of our cantata for this year. We go from joy to sadness all in one service today, because life is new. And some of its sadness is unavoidable. We cannot have Easter Sunday without the days in between, the celebration of Palm Sunday and then. For Jesus' death is not avoidable, but necessary to enable his resurrection. And I hope you can come on Thursday and Friday to remember the things that took place between now and next week. But if you cannot, then enjoy the anticipation we are singing about today, and join us for Resurrection Sunday next week with these events in your mind and memory. For the celebration of these people on the road to Jerusalem would quickly turn from anticipation to disappointment and manipulation by the leaders in the temple and synagogues who sought the death of our Lord. Though even they were unaware at the time They were fulfilling the prophecies that God had laid out so long ago in their own scriptures. Do not be overcome with the sadness and suffering of Jesus, for it is necessary for your own salvation. But do not ignore it either, for it is necessary for the whole world. I hope to see you on Thursday evening and on Friday at noon. But if you cannot make either service, I'll give you goodbye. But I do hope to see you next Sunday on Easter morning. For blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna, as we say today. Amen.